Manager with care.com. So today we are going to just go through real quick what your family care benefits are that are available through care.com. So I'll show you a couple of slides first, but then we'll go into more of a demo. So I want to show you the landing page that you will access to get your premium care membership, and then what that will actually look like when you go through to search through providers. Okay, so first, it's probably always most important to talk about how you can access your benefit. So there are 3 ways right now. So you can go to snhu.care.com. So you'll go there, you'll enter a landing page where you can see your SNHU logo, you'll see Southern New Hampshire on there. You'll know you're in the right spot. If this is your first time enrolling in the benefit, then you'll click on register now, and you'll just need your employee email address to be able to connect to your benefits. Otherwise, if you already have an account established on there, you'll just go to log in. One thing I do want to mention, though, is if you do have a membership that you have already registered on the regular care.com site, let's say you've already established a site and you have messages back and forth with providers, you favorited providers. If you do go on to the snhu.care.com site, you can merge your accounts. You'll just select that you are not a new registrant. So you can put in your current login information, and then you'll just, again, then put in your credentials, which is, in this case, your email address that connects you to your employer. So you'll notice that there is a way to be able to merge that. If you, for some reason, were paying for a membership on, through the care.com site, and you didn't know that this was available to you, and you've already paid an annual fee, or you've paid a few months already, and you've been employed at SNHU, you can be reimbursed for that cost. What you'll do is just log on, merge your accounts, and then you'll just contact our member services right through the portal, and they'll reimburse you for, whatever that allotment should be. Okay. Second way, I know that was long-winded for the first step, but second way you can access is downloading the care.com app, so you can have it right at your fingertips anytime you needed to message back and forth with a provider or search through providers. It's all right there, Android or Apple, whatever you choose. You also have access to call in and speak to a team member 24/7. So that's this 855 number here. It's also listed right on your landing page when you go to log in, which I'll show you once we get there. Okay. So now just a little bit about what you can do with your care membership. So you have access to a free premium care.com membership. So this gives you access to be able to post jobs, search through providers, message back and forth through your portal. You have access to a safety area. You have access to articles and guides, background check options. So I'll show you that once we get more into the demo. But just as a high level of this, you have access to the entire realm of the providers that are on the site. So this is for child caregivers, adult caregivers, pets, housekeeping, tutors, and really anything in between. So if you think of those little odd jobs that you need done throughout the week, I, for example, have packages that I need to take to the post office, and I'm just waiting for like a time to hire someone to take all of my packages, do some grocery shopping for me, or whatever kind of errands that I can kind of fit in to give somebody for an entire day. And I'll show you where you can kind of post jobs for that type of service. So there is a little, there's your high level providers that you can search for, but they're also on here looking for odd jobs if you need it. All right, so let me jump into the demo so I can give you a little bit of a preview, if you've never used the site before, of how that actually looks. So, actually, let me share my screen instead of my desktop so you can see it a little bit bigger on your end. Okay, there we go. So this is when you go to snhu.care.com. This is what you'll see. This will be your landing page. You can see your logo here. You see SNHU here. And then you'll see Let's Get Started or log in. As I mentioned before, if you have already created an account, you'll just log in from here. If you are registering for the first time, you'll click on Let's Get Started, and you'll answer a series of questions. This right here, your work email, is what is attaching you and confirming that you are eligible for the benefits. You can see here, if you hover over the question mark, it says use your work email address for auto approval. So you'll go through, fill in information. The next page will ask you, some more questions if you have any family members that you'd like to add. So if you have any children, you have pets in the home, you want to add detailed background about your family, you can hit skip that for now. You can always add it later in your settings and preferences. That is just, if you want to kind of cover that information up front when you're building out job posts or doing searches, all of that can pre-populate for you. Okay, so then once you are logged in, so you created your account, and you will enter a page that looks similar to this. So now this is my own demo account, so yours will look a little bit different. Of course, it will have your name here, not mine. So you can see right up top is your navigation toolbar. Anytime you get lost within the page, let's say you want to get back to your landing page, click on My Care Benefits. You'll be taken right back here. Your messages, this is where your message will come from any providers if you're messaging back and forth. Preferences and settings, that's where I mentioned if you wanted to go back and change any of your information. Let's say you needed to change an address, you wanted to add an email address to be, like a watch on the messages. So that's where you would do that. And then contact us. Here's your phone number that you'll call. So anytime you go to the website, you'll call that number. And then you can also click Help Center where there's FAQs or a chat function that you can chat directly with our member services team. If you're not finding something within your FAQ, if you're having trouble with anything on the site. All right. So then to access the landing page for finding any kind of provider. So you can see it breaks it down into 4 main categories: childcare, senior care, pet care, housekeeping. So as I mentioned, those are the 4 main hubs, but there are, in between silos there. So if you click on any of these tiles, you'll see this pop up. So you can either post a job or search through local caregivers. If you go through and post a job, this is something, an area that I would direct you to if, for instance, you were looking for what I had just mentioned, someone to kind of run your errands for you, do some odd jobs, you can post a job for that. If you're looking for a full-time nanny, you're looking for someone to go in on a nanny share with you, post a job for that information. And it will ask you, I'll click here. Let's say we're posting a job for a nanny, and it will go through and ask you a series of questions where you need care, who your children are, the dates that you need care, what else you may need help with throughout the day, and then additional qualities. So these are just ideas for you to put into a job posting. Pay range area or range, and then you hit continue, and it will auto-populate a job posting for you. Where then you can add, delete, whatever you need. But this is like a good template and a good basis for you to start out with before you post your job. And like I mentioned, this is just, I clicked on nanny, so it's giving me that type of prompt to be able to put that information in. But if you're looking for any kind of side job, you have complete freedom to post whatever you want in your job posting. If any of the providers on the site see your job posting, are interested in it, you will get a message letting you know, so-and-so is interested in your job posting. You'll be able to review their profile and then decide if you'd like to contact them back. So that's the job posting. If, go back here, if you decide to go through and search on your own, so this, for example, let's say you're looking for someone in your area, you're looking for a babysitter for Saturday night. You can go through to childcare and search local caregivers. When you click on search local caregivers, you'll be taken to the main hub of providers where you can search through their profiles. So you can see this here, there's filter areas up here for hourly, availability, experience, and then there's more filters. So this is where it gets a little bit more in depth if you wanted to filter through these providers for these specific reasons. Comfortable with pets, if you have pets in your home, any caregiver details, education, and then there's a keyword search as well. So if, for example, I know they give Spanish or live in here. I always like to give the example of, let's say you need somebody to transport your children at 4 o'clock, they need to be at soccer practice and you're still working. Maybe that's an area that you could put in transportation. So that way the providers on the site that can provide transportation are showing and not the ones that cannot provide transportation. So that is, just an example of something that you could put in there. So once you put in your filters, I just left everything open so I can give you a good picture here. But once you put in your filters, you'll get a list of providers, and they all have information just right up front here before you click in their profiles. These little badges next to every individual provider's name is what we call a care check. So this is our front door background check that every provider on the site must go through. It doesn't matter if they're providing childcare or if they're a housekeeper, they must go through this care check. And it's a series of annual criteria that they must have reviewed by our internal care.com background team. You can read more about that, which I'll show you where you can access. But just since we're limited on time, I won't go too much in depth. We also have a stopwatch next to Cindy's name. That means she's very quick and responsive. So if you are to message her through the portal, she's pretty quick to respond back. Any stars, just as anything else you go to and search through on websites, review ratings. That I think is always the most helpful thing to review. You can see how active they are on the site underneath their pictures. Obviously, the more active they are on the site, the more up to date their accounts are, the more active they are in looking for to book jobs here. You'll also see this right here is a profile for a child care center in the area. So their profiles are a little bit different. Their background check criteria is a little bit different. They're really on the site if they meet the criteria for the state, which all of the state information is on the profile as well. So we do have a couple minutes, I'll show you that. But what I would like to do is go into Cindy's profile here to give you a little background on what the full profile looks like. So you can see she has an entire about section, so you can read a little bit about what she does or what she has done in the past, any age groups that she's willing to care for. So looks like all ranges, she's willing to care for up to 2 children, and then any additional things that she's willing to help with during the day. So as I mentioned, let's say you're looking for someone to run errands. Sorry to keep going back to that, but it is a really good example. If you don't have a need for childcare, there are other ways to use the site. Cindy is listed to help out with errands. So she would be somebody that you could contact to do that for you. But she has a very lengthy list of things that she's willing to help out with. So she would be a great provider. Qualifications, so any education or professional skills. So this is where you could see if somebody was first aid certified or CPR trained, that would all be listed there. And then onto the safety. So this is just one area that you can see safety measures. Care check was verified last on August 6th of 2021. So she'll be coming up to have it tested again this August. You can visit the safety center right from this link here, where you can review exactly what the care check is, what types of things you can do on your end to make sure that you are safely hiring these providers. Because I do want to mention, although we are doing the front door care check and background checks for these providers, it is really, really highly recommended that you are going through everything that you possibly can for safety measures. So during your interviews with these providers, you should be asking, detailed safety questions. If you are interested in purchasing any additional background checks at the time of hiring somebody, you can do it right through the site. So although we do the care check, you would have access to the full reports and be able to read line by line exactly what these checks have to say about this individual provider. So those would be available. If somebody already did have these purchased by somebody, they would be verified here and on file, and you would be able to request them from there. You can also ask for any piece of, confirmation from any of these providers. So let's say they're CPR certified, they have, X, Y, and Z training, whatever, you are looking for, you can ask to see that requirement. Of course, it's just an interview process. You are the hiring family. You can also see the verified information that we have for this provider. So we have phone number and email verified by Cindy. You'll see more Facebook and Twitter verifications once you get to more of like the housekeeping space or the pet care space. They typically will have, some kind of business site set up for themselves. My favorite part, as I already kind of mentioned, is the recommendations and the star ratings, where you can see reviews from past hiring families, which I think is, the most helpful to get a reference. You could always ask too at the time of hiring to possibly get contact information from previous families if they have it, or if they were willing to do that for them, just to, again, have more peace of mind, more insight, more background knowledge on these providers. All right, real quick, I just want to pop into the Learning Garden here. So this is a child care center profile. So you can find the exact location, phone number, company website, any reviews, ratings. I would just be a little bit more cautious when you're looking at the costimate and the availability on these sites when they do have this information provided. Just because over the last year, especially, I won't say it's just in the last year, but especially over the last year, there have been a lot of rate changes, a lot of, closing doors, trouble finding these daycare teachers. So some of the programs might be a little bit more limited. But you can read about the business, you can contact them right through the site, set up walkthroughs, ask questions for availability or cost, so you can get that up to date. Then you can also see the licensing information. So as I mentioned, they are all up to date on their state license. So you can see each state will have it verified. This one is in New York, so you can specifically go in and look at New York's licensing website so you can see exactly what the criteria are. Again, cost and availability, take that with a grain of salt. And then ratings and reviews, which again are always really helpful, but of course you want to stay attentive to the date that they are run so you can ask more questions. Another link to the safety center. So we do want to, always make sure that we're taking as many precautions as we can when hiring. So, this is just another tool where if you're looking to build a list of daycare or childcare centers in your area, this is a great way to go about it. Some of them will have pictures so you can get an inside look. So you can actually just build a portfolio of, what's available. You can contact the business, be able to set up and ask questions right through the portal. Okay. And just last thing I want to show is the safety center again. So to access the safety center, other than from a provider profile, so as you saw, they had safety center links in the provider or the child care center profiles. You can also access through your provider page. So when you click on your name in the top right, you can see under resources, there's safety and articles and guides. Articles and guides are going to be more, timely manners. So if it's, for example, when May was Mental Health Awareness Month, we had a bunch of articles that focused on that. There was a ton, during the COVID era. I know it's not over, but there was a ton of information about that, what kind of measures you should be talking about, how it's affecting, who and whoever, there was just a ton on there. For example, even like if you have a picky eater at home, speaking on children, you can find articles specifically that relate to that. So it's more of the browsing type content. For safety, when you go into the safety tool, it is going to give you, again, your background check information where you can see exactly what the care check includes. So this is just a high level overview, but you can read more in depth about that. There's community guidelines, information for families on safety, and our caregivers can even come here to check on safety information. So there's ways to make alerts or make reports if you find that necessary, and then additional safety resources here. So you can see specific background check information, caregiver FAQs, daycare information. There's different safety articles. So even if you click on safety articles here, this is one that I actually always find pretty helpful because you can see there's like a complete hiring guide for families. So what types of questions can you be asking? What should you consider when you're going through a hiring process? Your nanny's first day of work checklist. So if you are hiring a full-time nanny, I think that's really helpful just to have on board and give yourself some kind of template to work with. And then you can see, there's some even outside of hiring nannies. So, even posting about your kids online, any kind of social media. So these are just high level safety topics that they pulled in here. general safety, summer safety tips, winter safety tips, preventing kid injuries. So there's a lot of, reading information that you can access here. For daycare information, this again gives you a guideline of some ways that you can go about your search. So starting with the online research, making sure that you're looking at the state requirements for licensing, set up appointments for visiting, and then narrow down your choices from there. So there's a lot of good, tips and guidelines on here. If you, had time to go through, and especially if you are hiring off of the site, really important to make sure that you are, making yourself comfortable, I would say, making sure that you feel comfortable with the service and with the provider that you're hiring. Can always set up, an in-person interview with these providers. Really up to you. This is just a place where you can come and find the providers in your area, get connected with them, and then go from there. Okay. So I will open it up. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type in the chat or come off mute. Happy to answer for you. Oh, I saw like we have some in the chat. Okay, so first question was, if you reach out to a caregiver to inquire about availability, are they expecting to have a meet and greet at that time to make sure they're a good fit with the family? Are they paid through the website? So you can do it either way. So it's really up to you. You can message back and forth with that provider as many times as you want until you feel comfortable to, okay, let's go through a real interview process. Let's meet. And you're running the show here. You can also set up payment however you want. If you wanted to be able to pay through the site and send them their payment through the care.com site, you can do so. There is a cost associated with it. Or you can set up, whatever payment strategy you're okay with, whatever's agreed upon between you and the provider. All right, looks like there's a payment tab. So you can do automatic payroll setup or one-time payment. Yes, definitely you can do that. Just make sure you are reading through how the setup works. If you do have any questions about it, reach out to our member services team. They're always happy to walk you through those services.
I just have a quick question on that payments. So mine was the question, we're hiring a nanny this winter and we're going to pay her through here. It does like all the tax stuff for us, right? Like it pulls all that and reports it?
It depends. So as of right now, you would have to purchase the service that does that. So it's called home pay. There is actually, you can still see my screen here. So when you do click on that, you can go in and learn more. You can make payments, but there is cost associated with it. It's actually through a third party. It's through our home pay service. So you would actually have to go and have it added to your membership. So there, like I said, is a cost associated with it if you wanted to have that set up. The bonus, as you mentioned, it takes care of the payment for you and it takes care of the tax information for you, which always is, I'm not a tax expert and it can get very confusing, of course. So this does it for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Brittany, care.com has wonderful webinars that they run every so often. As a matter of fact, there was one today about the kids are not okay with Dr. Jen. If you have signed up and are enrolled in care.com, do you automatically get notification of those webinars, or is there something else that you need to do to make sure you're getting that information? I mean, we put it out, we try to put it out when we can, but I think it's helpful if folks are a member or have it here if we know there's a way for them to get it directly in their inbox too.
Yeah. So all of our webinars are posted once they're recorded in the articles and resources area that I mentioned. But if you are signed up for notifications, So in your preferences and settings on your website, you can sign up for all the notifications. As long as you have opted into that, you will get an email letting you know about the webinar. It's usually about 3 to 4 weeks in advance of the webinar happening. And if you register for that webinar, you'll automatically get an email with the webinar recording. So let's say, you signed up, you couldn't make it because you had a meeting, you'll still be able to review that webinar recording. And it's nice to have that because then you're reminded that it happened rather than remembering to go back to the site and search for it. So always when you see those come up, try and get yourself registered so you get that recording. Because there's always great topics that they're focusing on. They try to make them, to everybody. So, it's not always about children. I want to say it was 2 months ago, we had a senior caregiving one, which we got rave reviews on that one because there's so much uncertainty, especially with, millennials are a big part of the workforce right now. And we're moving into the era of being, I don't want to say we are taking over the sandwich generation, but we're moving into that area. So a lot of us are starting to deal with more. We have our children and we have our adult loved ones to care for and starting to think about those areas. So if you get a chance and you're in the situation or could be in the near future, go back and try and watch that one. It's a great segue into trying to get these on your calendar and schedule them for yourself every month to be able to review, because we do take pride in making sure that we are getting the right professionals to run these webinars and have the knowledge to speak.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?